Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, January the 10th. I would now like to call the meeting to order, and thank you, everyone, for standing by just as we get the technology working. So as we begin today, I just wanted to state that to comply with work from home, the work from home directive that has been sent out, the way we are conducting tonight's meeting is we have 4 members of council present in council chambers. So along with myself is Councillor Bateman, Councillor Lajeunesse, and Councillor St. Pierre, as well as a handful of our staff. And online we have Councillor Beddoes, Councillor Logans, and Councillor McMath, and some of our staff will be joining us virtually as well. So for housekeeping purposes, members of council and staff within chambers will be required to wear their masks for the full duration of the meeting, except for perhaps if you're having a sip of water. Councillors online, obviously that's your call because of where you are joining us virtually from, so I'll leave it that way, but please keep your cameras on, so that'll help expedite the procedures, but also mute on and off as needed, depending on the noise you may have in the background. And if you do wish to speak, or when we go to vote, if you can raise your hand towards the middle of the screen, so you kind of need to put your hand in front of your face, just because of what we may see visibly through the cameras tonight. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So thank you, everyone. I do wish to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting in this hybrid form on the territory of the Sauk Nation. And that brings us right into item 3, which is approval of tonight's agenda and looking for the agenda for tonight's meeting to be adopted with the amendments, and that is 2 new business items, 10.1, the addition of council procedural bylaw, and 11.1, guiding lights. And those are either available on yellow pages or as a separate download to your iCompass apps. So I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda, moved in the room by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Any questions from anyone in the room or otherwise? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. And I may not rush this too much because I don't know if there's going to be a lag just with the video. So if you do find that, for those of you participating virtually, if I'm rushing ahead, then please just speak out with a point of order. Okay, so that brings us to our meeting minutes here for adoption from December the 13th. And that would be that these meeting minutes be adopted as circulated. So I have a mover by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. I just want to speak to one item, and for those that at home that may follow the webcast as well as the printed minutes, you'll note that when we looked at adoption of the budget that I stated only that the motion had carried. I did not state my negative vote there, so that with local government, if you do not vote, you're said to be in favor. So that is my own mistake that I own. I didn't register my negative vote there, so here you'll find that although on the webcast I said carried, it is in fact carried unanimously. So that's just something that we'll take to heart going forward. It's the way it is in local government. All right, so any questions or corrections about the minutes? Nothing in the room. Is there anything online? No. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the minutes, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our Chief Administrative Officer is on vacation, a scheduled vacation this week. I'll just turn to our deputy to see if there's anything to report out.
Thank you. Nothing major to report with this. Just a couple quick updates were, obviously with the COVID changes, we are currently looking internally at the staff impacts of that and any operational changes or that need to happen from basically reverting to our original COVID plan as far as working from home, staff in the office, council meetings, et cetera. So staff are just currently reviewing all that. Lots of staff are away over Christmas, so just kind of connecting with all the departments and ensuring operations can continue, and thankfully most people are set up to work from home who are pursuing that option. So we'll just proceed along with that path and provide any updates to council and the public as needed if any impacts to services would be felt from this. And then, of course, because it's the first meeting of the new year, staff are currently working on 2022 work plans and strategic planning sessions just to, now that the budget was adopted, to hit the ground running. There's a lot of big projects in this budget, so that's really the focus for the beginning of the year here is to get the 2022 work plans for staff developed and get some input from council. And then go from there and get those finalized so staff can hit the ground running and we can start getting those projects underway. That's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gray. I was going to make a few opening remarks and I kind of jumped ahead here, so I'm just going to make a few comments now. And firstly, welcome to 2022. I just wanted to say that it's actually with a heavy heart that we start the new year. And I say that because I do want to mark the passing of Grant Gilbertson. It's a tragic way to welcome this year. And certainly on behalf of Council and the District of Sauk, I just wish to express our condolences to family and friends, acquaintances, and certainly we've seen a lot of just the impact it's had on our hockey here on the South Island. It certainly is, it's just a tough way to start the year. So just certainly wanted to give that expression out. And obviously we're now in this Omicron and dealing with the variants. So as Ms. Gray just highlighted, it's the steps the district is taking, what we're taking as a council here. Certainly we do have a lot of work ahead of us. Council did have a strategic planning session planned that will now need to be rescheduled, and we'll be looking to do that so we can report out. For myself, it will be how the elements of the budget fit into our strategic plan as this council reaches its final year together. Council, as we're all aware, our last meeting didn't really finish on a high note. I believe as chair, certainly, I play a key role in that. However, all of us have a responsibility. We all signed on to a code of conduct. We all want to give our best to the community, so certainly we'll be looking at ways on how I, as chair, can tighten up our procedure while still looking at fairness. I recognize that long meetings are difficult, so we'll be continuing to find time where we can so that we give our best energy forward to the community. Some places I'll be looking around is how we handle delegations as well as points of order. Points of order any member of council can make. It is then my obligation as chair to issue a statement on how it's to be addressed. If a councillor disagrees, then you have the right to challenge the chair through a vote. And that would be, it's not to have a back and forth dialogue. I give a ruling as chair and that's what stands unless it's challenged otherwise. Also, just as we receive input from delegations, the best way forward is for council to then consider a notice of motion that could be entertained later in the meeting, either by waiving notice or read into the record for upcoming discussion at a future meeting. I also just hope that we all give our very best forward. We respect chambers and we respect the work that we're doing here, and we find professionalism within all of us to create a fair system. So on that, I'll leave it with us. I know that this is a hard time for everyone. Everyone is either overworked and underpaid and tired of the whole thing, and I think we're all in that together. So let's just give our best energy as we can. And as always, I look for optimism and find inspiration throughout our community, certainly from members of our council and members of our staff as well. So I thank you all for the energy and what you bring forward to us. Okay, so moving along then is our item 6. I'll leave it at that for now. I do look forward to sharing more in the community. It's just hard to share the community when I'm looking at an empty room, but we'll certainly find ways to do that going forward. Okay, so I'm going to turn item 6, public question and comment period. I'll ask our corporate officer if we have any members of the public registered to address council on agenda items tonight.
No, Your Worship, we do not.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 7, and that is our consent agenda. The recommendation here is that item 7.1 be adopted by general consent. That's moved in the room by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Does any member of council online or in room have any items they wish to pull for individual discussion? See nothing online, nothing in the room. So then I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving and filing? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 8 in our reports here. So the first one up here is our sister city agreement with Natori, Japan. Council, it seemed like a long time ago when we discussed the possibility that myself, a staff member, were going to join the students of Journey Middle School on a trip to Japan that, of course, as you know, got canceled. However, since then, as you see in the report, we have been meeting regularly with the city of Nattori, the mayor there, as well as the staff, sharing what's been happening in our respective cities in terms of COVID-19. We celebrated with Japan with the Olympics that were hosted, and then continuing to find ways to work together on areas of mutual interest. Our staff, thank you, Ms. Temple, did send a new Canadian flag to Nattori, which they are proudly flying in their Canadian building. So it was quite heartwarming to actually see that happen there. Japan, as you may know, had a slow start with the rollout of the vaccine. However, they have since quickly caught up to us with most of their population receiving third doses, as well as the rollout amongst children. A main difference between Natori City and Souk is that in Japan, municipalities are responsible for the delivery of health care as well as education. So part of perhaps what maybe led to a long delay is having every city in the country agree to how the vaccine rollout was going to be. So imagine if that was something we had to have on our council agendas. Be quite interesting and see it even vary across from one province to another. So anyway, where we're at now is we are optimistic. We do have a draft agreement here that you'll see. We have had it checked through interpretive services that the translation is accurate, which it is, because admittedly Microsoft Word doesn't always translate properly, as I have since learned through strange letters I've sent to my family abroad. However, we have received confirmation that this is fine. We are hoping that in this case the entire Nattori Council is going to look to visit Souk for a signing ceremony in person, provided travel restrictions enable that to happen. We have not had much discussion with the students of Journey Middle School, mainly because we don't want to set up expectations or disappointments. It must be very hard for the students that saved and looked forward to a trip that was canceled, and we don't know when that'll happen. Though we are looking at other ways to share opportunities. We're looking at a pen pal program as well as some other pieces here. So this is what is here in front of you, and either myself or staff can take any questions that you might have. Anyone in the room? Anyone online have questions? Okay, so I'm going to read out the recommendation then, and that is that Council approve the sister city agreement between the City of Nattori and the District of Souk, and that Council authorize the Mayor to sign the sister city agreement on behalf of the district at a signing ceremony to be scheduled as COVID restrictions permit, and that any expenses related to the signing or maintenance of the sister city agreement, which are subject to the district's travel and expense policy C0-005, require further approval as determined under that policy. So that's moved in the room by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Councillor McMath, did you wish to say something? Or you were seconding?
No, I voted for.
Okay. Any comments from anyone online or in the room?
So
Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, it appears next spring will be the signing ceremony if all goes well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Councillor St. Pierre?
It's a small thing, but I suggest that the students have a chance to exchange photographs. It's easily enough done, and that could be really quite interesting for them, I would think. Having
Yeah.
pictures of day-to-day living in Souk and day-to-day living in Nattori.
And that is something that we're exploring with the Pen Pal program. We did do video exchange, though, where we looked at what cycling around Souk looked like versus cycling around Nattori, and they liked our video. Theirs was awesome. But we did a good job, too, I think. It was quite professional when you put the two up. Not saying ours wasn't professional, but we were quite impressed by what they put into ours, so we need to amp it up a bit. Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you. We'll keep you posted on how that all goes. Okay, next up is item 8.2, and this is a request for decision for the Wounded Warrior Run 2022. So this was an item of correspondence, you may recall, that we pulled and then asked staff just to come back with a bit more information, and here it is now. So look if there's any questions. Questions in the room? Councillor Lajeunesse?
Yeah, will they be coming to Souk again this year?
Yes, so there's two different pieces happening. There's a run that's from Port Hardy to end in Victoria, and then they're also doing a one-day run from Souk to Sydney. So there's kind of two different components happening on different days. So the main run is February 27th, but the one-day run is on February the 6th. Other questions? Councillor St. Pierre?
I noticed that in previous years, we had funded to about $1,000, and I was wondering if this was actually a one-time increase, or if we were looking at an ongoing increase, given that we seem to have a steady 1,000 for a period of time. Is this a blip, or are we looking at ongoing, potentially, larger support?
I don't know the answer. I think we'll wait and see. I think part of the cost here, all I really have is kind of what you have here as well. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer if that'll be the case, but a future council could make the determination just to leave it at the 2,000, that's our maximum.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think anyone does. We'll just see. Okay, seeing no more questions then, the recommendation is that council supports the Wounded Warrior Run 2022 in the amount of $2,750 funded from council contingency, as the District of Souk is home to an ever-increasing population of veterans, members of the military, and first responders. Moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any discussion from members of council? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think it's important to note that Chris and Catherine Linford are residents of Souk, and they're involved with this Wounded Warrior Couples Overcoming Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And I met the two of them when we had a yoga studio, and they practiced yoga there, and they moved here from Edmonton back in 2010, and he's a retired lieutenant colonel. Spent 33 years in the armed forces. He served in Iraq, Rwanda, and Afghanistan, and he got post-traumatic stress disorder. And he went on to author a book, Warrior Rising, which is the root of this Wounded Warrior project. So I think it's good for us to support. There is definitely a local angle here.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Councillor Bateman. Other comments from members of council? So just, I have just a request for staff, since, maybe I'll call the vote first and then just a follow-up request for staff, because that'll depend. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, council. So just for staff, please, if you could please reply back and just confirm with them that I will be available, and also remind council of the kickoff event on the first day, so that they know who, you may just have to find out who from council is available to attend that morning. That'll be on Sunday, the February the 6th. And also, they have extended an invitation to myself for the grand finale, and I am also available on that date, so if you could please just confirm our attendance back to the organizers, that would be appreciated.
Will do.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one up is 8.3, and that's the AVICC Resolutions. So that's the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, and it's just a report here for information. Or Ms. Machado, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a reminder, it is that time of year when the call is out for resolutions that need to be submitted to AVICC, and those are any issues that are under the provincial mandate. And if council would like to consider any resolutions, those need to be into myself by this Friday. If you need a hand writing anything, please let me know. And those would come forward to the January 24th meeting for consideration by council, and we would then forward it to AVICC for consideration.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Machado. Councillor St. Pierre?
We know that we have quite a few advocacy items, on the books. I was just curious as to whether or not, I'm assuming this would be in your area, whether there's anything that needs support through a resolution at AVICC in terms of the advocacy work that we're doing right now.
I can't just, thank you for that. I can't think of anything that is going to that stage because everything now is sort of heightened more to, we're engaged now with the province on a lot of things. The only one that would come to mind is something to do with transit and how they need a serious, they need help to keep the system going, but I suspect that's something the Transit Commission is going to look at. I mean, there has been some advocacy just to support transit, but that's not really, it's SUC, but it's not SUC specific, but in terms of our other items, I'll give it another thought, but just because we're engaged now with various ministries, I can't think of anything particular that would stand out that we need to pull other local governments together on. That's the only thing. Because even the ECOM that we're dealing with doesn't touch all of the island. It's only some of us on the South Island. It doesn't even group in that way. Follow up? Go ahead.
In terms of the transportation and the transit issue, one thing I do note is that there seems to be definitely a rural versus urban divide in terms of how the resources can be allocated, and we really need a different system for rural areas because we're not in the same situation as urban areas that have schools and so on and so forth and have a lot of infrastructure already. So I think that we could potentially be looking at a resolution in that direction if it was of interest. Something to the effect of providing possibly different funding model, maybe different resources exclusively for rural areas so that we can actually move our people out of commuting, move people, dial it down on the carbon, because otherwise, without those resources, I don't know how rural areas can do it. And we've talked about this before, so we know it's true.
Okay, well, I look forward to a resolution that may come forward at the next council meeting. Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this would be an opportunity to advocate for VIMQ, inclusion in VIMQ.
We're already in discussions, though, with the relevant ministry, so I don't think so.
Okay.
This is where it's something like, back in the day, it was, why isn't cannabis legal? It really should be from a local government perspective, and local governments put that together and pushed through several resolutions to legalize and tax. And then we pushed through another one to give us a share of the revenue, which we're still waiting on. So you see, we did one a few years ago, a moratorium on tankers, which was supported at AVICC and UBCM, but not at the FCM level. So it's interesting how it's finding pieces where we have a problem, we feel others share it in common, so let's amplify and stand with a united voice. It's not so much to take something specific to SUC, to get others to help us advocate for it. It's finding something that's common with all local governments. But feel free to go through the resolution book, and we'll see what you may come up with by the end of the week. Thank you, Ms. Machado. So on this note, the recommendation is that council receive the report on AVICC resolutions for information. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor McMath. And any further comments from any members of council? Anyone in the room? Anyone online? No. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. The next one up is 8.4, Canada Day celebrations. So we have had reach out from Councillor Beddoes. This has to do with the Sauk Lions Club. I'm not sure. Would he need to recuse himself? How do we do that?
I would not be in conflict. I have to declare it. I'm not
Okay.
in conflict.
You're not?
No.
Okay, just checking, okay? So here's where there has been a reach out on the Canada Day event because our organizing partner is looking to set up their schedule and work plans as well. And obviously, we had to cancel the last 2 years. So it's the case of what do we do this year? I tend to think that we have it in the budget and we see what happens. I think it's important for the community to come together to celebrate. I mean, really, it's going to be what the public health orders enable us to do. However, Celebrate Sauk was a go in September, as well as things like the Santa Parade, outdoor events, for the most part, like soccer, is a go. So I think at this point that, I don't know, comments? Councillor McMath?
The only note that I'm not totally comfortable with is the comment where there's some places where refunds aren't possible, like deposits are mandatory, things like that. I'm just not comfortable signing up for a bunch of things and say we are still in lockdown and then that money's gone to sort of nowhere. So I think the only stipulation that I would add is that we can sign on again, of course, and we haven't used it for the last 2 years, but that the things that we are registering for or looking to have, that we either don't have like non-refundable deposits or it's something that we look at closer to for making an exception.
That makes sense. Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, if I could comment on that. Some of you may know I've organized this event numerous times in the past, and I know of late anything that we do with signing anything, we always have an escape clause if COVID prevents us from doing it. I appreciate Councillor McMath's comment. That's something that we all have to do in this day, is to make sure that we're not locked in, because, you know, I just booked a trip to Mexico and had to get out of it, and, you know, you have to have those escape clauses. On another note is one thing that I would be very interested in knowing very, very soon is the status of the fireworks. The previous 2 years we did have fireworks. We set the artificial turf on fire and had a number of other problems. So I'd like to hear from the fire chief, or I understand the fire chief is fairly new, but from the fire department, as if it's still a good idea to have the fireworks down at the flats. There was some discussion in having the fireworks over the harbor, and you know, a number of places around town that you could see those fireworks. So I would certainly like to hear that before you know, we proceed with. I'm all in favor of doing something. I think it'd be great, and I think we have to sort of plan in the event of it is okay. Chances are it is. We had that great luck in our local little group at not at McGregor, but John Phillips Memorial Park. So I'm in favor of proceeding, but I'd certainly like to hear from the fire chief in regards to fireworks and the problems we had down at the flats with wind, smoke, and July 1st, that time of year.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoes. Is our chief available? I think the challenge last year was right in the middle of the heat dome. We have canceled them, as far as I know, a few times because of the dryness and the wildfire risk.
Yeah, this is Chief Ryder. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Chief, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. To Councillor Beddoes, through your worship, good question. I don't really know much about the event you're speaking of. However, having said that, in my previous work, we always looked at weather obviously played a big part. The heat dome is specifically something to be concerned about for obvious reasons. Having said that, I guess it would depend on the impact and the significance of the event, and if we can put things in place to allow us to move forward. We have the latitude to do certain things. I usually always follow the sort of the rule of the province, especially in fire ban times, but that's not to say that things are impossible, but it's a little bit early for me in the game to really offer too much of an opinion other than the fact that we have to be very careful and cognizant of the environment.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Chief Ryder, thank you for that. I think at this point, it's to go with what we know, whether, you know, let's plan for an event, provided COVID restrictions allow us to do so. And as we get more information, the chief can get, you know, maybe Councillor Beddoes, you could send some information. I do recall the damage to the turf field as well and some other challenges with the particular location, so we can spend some time making that determination. Obviously, weather is going to play a huge factor. It's just for now, do we give Lions the go-ahead to start organizing and planning this event? We need to, there's some other pieces we just need to wait and see about. Councillor St. Pierre?
I think based on Councillor Beddoes' response, Councillor McMath's concerns, good concerns about whether or not we would get on the hook for deposits can be addressed through the escape clauses. And I think we have to at least assume the possibility that Canada may want to go forward, and we can't wait at that point. We actually have to move forward with this. So I would suggest we simply move forward with the resolution, because I don't know what else we can really do.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's a matter, though, are we looking to include the lumberjack show again? Is that something that staff is wanting to know if we're going to include that? I would say maybe not this year. I'm sort of thinking let's just plan for a good old-fashioned event. And then when things become a bit more normal, then we can see what sort of events we want to actually book in advance and pay deposits on in the future. Like, we just didn't had that show last year, so if we don't have it this year, that's probably okay. I think everyone comes for the cake, right? Councillor McMath?
I just loved his dog show,
The
Sioux tradition.
Dog show?
And log?
Oh, the log show. Sorry, I thought you said a dog show.
That would be cool too. But I would just have it and maybe just take a look at what is their cancellation policy, because it is like this historic Sioux thing that we used to have, and it's the closest we can get to it right now. So I'd love to keep that.
Okay, Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, Your Worship, you, Councillor McMath. I get a lot of echo. Can you understand me?
Yep.
There's so much.
Okay, I actually have a meeting on Thursday with the Lions, and it's on their agenda as well. I can look into that subject about you know, the escape clause. I know that the logging show were really hard-nosed when we booked them a few years ago, and they wouldn't even give our deposit back, but they would come to the next show, you know, if we canceled it. So we did get our money back, but we had to book them. So I like Councillor St. Pierre's notion. Let's move ahead. Let's see what the Lions come up with. And, you know, we can always cancel at a moment's notice, but to get the things moving, we need to go now. I agree with that thing. And we can work out some of the bumps. I can talk to the chief about fireworks options. I could show him where they were. I mean, he's got staff down there that could show him what happened too. But I'd be more than happy to talk it over with him and go from there. So I think we move on with this, like Councillor St. Pierre says, and get this going. Thanks.
Okay, that sounds good. So here we are then, that council directs staff to proceed with support the organization of Canada Day celebrations for 2022. So moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. I think more to come on the details, the show, all of that at a later date, but I think the Lions need to work out their work plan, and I agree, let's just get on with it, and we'll see where we land. Okay, anything further from anyone? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'll just state, there was indeed a dog show, maybe 5-6 years ago. It was fantastic. There was an obstacle course and all these, it was wonderful. So Al, maybe Councillor Beddoes, you might want to mention that on Thursday.
It's a good idea. There was the Fall Fair,
Yeah,
a pet show.
We'll look into that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's,
I did judge the pet show at the Fall Fair. That went over well. Frederick the Duck won, actually. It was pretty cool. Okay, I'll call a question on Canada Day. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Great, thank you, everybody. We'll see how it goes. Okay, the next up is 8.5, Climate Action Committee Terms of Reference Revision. Did I miss something? No. It's 8.5, right? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in October, when staff brought a report forward to council about the committee positions, council directed staff to canvass current members and find out how many people were willing to continue their posts and then post for any vacancies. That has been minimal with most committees. However, the Climate Action Committee, we have had 5 out of the 9 community members resign. Staff have met with the remaining members, and they feel that orienting 5 new members at this point in time would really take away focus from what the committee is currently working on. So they have put forward a recommendation here to change the terms of reference for the Climate Action Committee to reduce the membership from 9 community representatives to 4. And I know that Councillor Bateman, I believe, was part of that discussion, so perhaps he could answer any questions I may have missed.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers it, though, but I'll see any questions from anyone in the room or online. Councillor St. Pierre?
I noted in the report that accompanied that there is the option of bringing in additional people if expertise is found. Is that correct? I just want to confirm that because that seemed pretty important. So if you find the perfect person that can actually fit in and help the work along, reducing to 4 doesn't mean that it's a maximum of 4. That's simply allowing the committee to continue its work with 4, correct?
Sorry, if I may, the voting membership would be 4 plus Councillor Bateman. Any additional resources would not have a voting position on the committee, but they would certainly be able to assist with any needs.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's well stated, thank you. There are 4 of us plus myself remaining, and thank you to all those who put in their committed full year. So they didn't actually resign per se, but they stepped down after their year commitment. And of course, we have the 6 months to complete the Climate Action Plan framework and begin the citizen mobilization storytelling. So really, the key people who have remained are central to those projects. So ideally, we wouldn't need any additional committee members, but yes, we'll reach out to groups in the community to help out.
Follow-up, go ahead.
Just one further procedural question. I'm just curious because of the voting. With 4 people, normally we have odd numbers for committees and councils and so on and so forth so that we can actually have tiebreakers. I don't know that it would be a big issue necessarily, but I'm curious as to what would happen if you actually happen to have a tie vote.
But I think in this case, Councillor Bateman makes it 5. So it's only if one person is absent, then,
Okay, perfect.
yeah. Okay, any questions from anyone online? No? Okay, so the recommendation is that council amend the terms of reference of the Climate Action Committee to reduce the membership from 9 community representatives to 4. So that's moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Anything further? No? No? Anyone? No? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Getting into our bylaw section, the first one up is 9.1, Subdivision and Development Standards Amendment Bylaws. So that is that council, it says here staff presentation. Is that the case?
Sorry, that's an error. This is for adoption.
Okay, thought so, okay. So here it is then, that council adopt the bylaw cited as Subdivision and Development Standards Amendment Bylaw number 832-404-02, 2021. So adoption moved by Councillor Lajeunesse and seconded by Logans. Any further discussion from anyone? Okay, we're on adoption. All those in favor then? And that's unanimous. Thank you. So next up is 9.2, and this is an OCP amendment and ALR exclusion for 6588 Throup Road. So I'll pass this over to staff then, please.
Thank you. I'll just begin by sharing my screen here. Do you have the presentation in front of you?
Nope. It's coming our way, apparently.
Okay.
We can see it now.
Perfect. All right, the applicants applied for an official community plan amendment to change the land use designation on 6588 Throup Road from agriculture to community residential. On behalf of the owner, the applicant has also requested to exclude 6588, which is a 1.32 acre property from the agricultural land reserve. Under the new provincial legislation regarding agricultural land and exclusions, the district is applying for the exclusion on the owner's behalf because the Agricultural Land Commission has confirmed in writing that 6588 Throup Road is exempt from the Agricultural Land Commission Act and its regulations as per Section 23, subsection 1, regarding parcels that are under 2 acres in size. This property is currently zoned large lot residential R1 and is a isolated agriculture designated property that is far from other active agricultural lands. Should the official community plan amendment and agricultural land exclusion be approved, the owner of the property intends to submit an application to rezone the property for low to medium density residential. At that time, further site details with development plans and applicable reports will be submitted, and a rezoning process with a public hearing will also take place. Under the new legislation, all costs associated with the exclusion application are to be paid for by the local government as assuming the role of the applicant. The district had an ALR exclusion sign made and posted on the property. The official community plan amendment and the exclusion is supported by staff because the proposed community residential designation aligns with the official community plan's regional context statement. The Agricultural Land Commission has no concerns with the OCP amendment. The property is exempt from the ALC regulations. The property is not assessed as farmland, and the property fits with the surrounding community residential designations. For those reasons, staff supports council proceeding with first and second reading of the bylaw and to proceed with scheduling a public hearing. That concludes my presentation for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell. I'll just reach out to see if any councillors in the room or online have any questions. So Councillor St. Pierre, go ahead, please.
Just a quick question through your worship to Mr. Paulo. I was curious about the actual cost of making the application, and given that the owner of the land will eventually have a parcel that they can, redevelop with medium to low density residential, is there any way to recoup the district's expenses on something where someone else is going to have a significant benefit?
We're monitoring this. Obviously, this would be the first exclusion application that we've received under this legislation. So it's something that we're monitoring with the first application. Noting right now under our present fee structure, we're doing our best to recoup as much of the cost as possible, such as combining the scheduled public hearing for the official community plan amendment as well as the land exclusion into one meeting. So that would be the cost for only one advertisement, but to accomplish two application processes concurrently.
Other questions from members of council in the room or online? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, through you to Mr. Paulo, I'm curious, what percentage of this property will be utilized for the roundabout?
Did you catch that, Mr. Paulo?
Yeah, yes, I did. I'm not sure if Mr. Carter would like to add anything in addition, but my understanding is at this time with these properties, this exclusion is strictly for the property itself, and all those other matters are being dealt with separately under the district's own infrastructure project. So this specific application would be separate as part of a private development proposal.
Okay, we seem to be missing Councillor McMath. Councillor McMath, oh, there you go, okay.
I turned it off during the slide.
Okay, it's easier if you keep it on because of how all the technology mixes together, and I don't even know how to explain that fully. Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone online? No? Okay, so I'll read out the recommendation. Can these be done together or separately? Separately, because they're 1 and 2?
Sorry, these ones can be done together.
They can be done together. Okay, so here we go. And that is that council give first and second reading to the official community plan amendment bylaw number 782-400-16-2022 to change the land use designation on 6588 Throup Road from agricultural AGR to community residential CR, and that council directs staff to schedule a public hearing for official community plan amendment bylaw number 782-400-16-2022 and agricultural land reserve exclusion application for 6588 Throup Road in accordance with section 466 of the Local Government Act. So that's moved by Councillor Lajeunesse, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any discussion from members of council? Anything Lajeunesse? Anything from St. Pierre? Bateman? Anyone online? No, no, okay, thank you. I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. So in the staff report, but not on the agenda, it has this part here in the blue box that says after the public hearing is closed, should council proceed? Like that probably shouldn't be on this, right? Because this will be after the public hearing?
It was included in the report, Your Worship, just as a reminder when it comes forward, because that report will be in the public hearing package, just that there is another piece that council needs to address after the public hearing.
Okay, so on that note, we will move on into our new business. So these are the two items added. So the first one is 10.1, Council Procedural Bylaw number 728. So we're back in this work from home virtual meeting, and of course, we made amendments already to allow for virtual participants. And I suppose in some ways we thought that should we run into another issue that we would receive a ministerial order like we had for M192, which we don't have, so it's a matter then of addressing this in our way. There was discussion that something further was going to come from the province, but I don't think that's happening. So I'll turn to Ms. Mushada just to add in a bit more for this. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes. Of course, yes, none of us thought we'd be back here again. But I do have some suggestions for an amendment to the council procedure bylaw. Those would include a provision for special circumstances under which a council meeting could be held completely electronically. Those would be such things as a public health event or perhaps even a weather event that precludes people from getting into the municipal hall. So that would be something that I propose we bring forward. We've got one little tweak to make in our current council procedure bylaw for public hearings and electronic participation, as well as I would like to bring forward a provision relating specifically to committee meetings. The bylaw is currently silent, except for it says that up to 4 can participate, but we don't have IT expertise at committee meetings. So those either need to be 100% in person or they need to be 100% online. So those are the 3 things, and we'll make sure that the rest of the bylaw works with the rest of those amendments and bring those forward for 3 readings on January 24th. We will pre-book our ad space with Souk News Mirror to do the advertising so that we can have public input and adopt that bylaw on February 14th so that we can keep working towards our public hearings, and hopefully, if we do need to continue to have electronic meetings, we'll have the ability to do so by the 2nd meeting in February.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Machada. My only thing, though, is if there's a significant weather event that would prevent us from traveling to Municipal Hall, it's likely we might not have hydro or Wi-Fi at home. But I think you never know what works and doesn't work these days in atmospheric rivers. Okay, questions for staff on this? Good solution. Okay, so here it is then that council directs staff to bring forward amendments to the council procedural bylaw to address electronic meetings under specific circumstances, and those will be defined accordingly. Okay, moved by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by Councillor Logans. Any comments? Councillor Beddoes is the mover.
No, I think that was very well said. I support that idea, so let's just get on with it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Logans.
I really appreciate staff bringing forward those recommendations. It works perfectly with what our intent was with the original bylaw, and it will be a good way to navigate this all going forward. Thank you.
Anything from anyone else? Just for those members of council online, I keep looking at you in my screen and not at the camera. So while I'm like, oh, I'm making eye contact, I'm not, and I apologize for that. It's just I'm drawn to looking at you because you're right in front of me and I know you're over there. Okay, anyway. All right, that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Our next item is correspondence regarding our Girl Guides and guiding lights across BC. They have asked us to support them with the color blue with exterior lighting to support girl empowerment in BC. And I believe we did this last year. The last 2 years are blurring together, but I do recall meeting some Girl Guides outside with the Souk News Mirror, and we had our picture taken, which we were trying to do. I just can't remember if it was last year or the year before, because we have blue lights down there. They were pretty cool. So I know we have the technology and the light bulbs. So this would be the direction here. Any questions from members of council? Okay. So Councillor Beddoes, go ahead.
Yeah, just if we do this, which I don't have a problem with doing it, we also have to be prepared that if other groups come to us for requests, that we may be changing colors of bulbs. But I guess that's a small expense. But we will be setting a precedent. I don't know what was done before. I don't remember the blue lights before. But I mean, great organization, support them. But just it does set a bit of a precedent that we might have to do it for other people too. But not a big deal.
It does indeed. I think it was last year. I'll find the photo. 2 years ago? Wow, see, it was 2 years ago. How about that? It all blurs together. We were wearing masks, though. It couldn't have been 2 years ago. I don't know. I'll look at the pictures and find it out. 2020. It's definitely not 3 years ago, because I wouldn't have to worry about a mask 3 years ago. So that's what's sort of putting this in. Anyway. Okay, so here we go, that council directs staff to light the Municipal Hall exterior lighting in the color blue on February 22nd to support girl empowerment in BC and our Girl Guides. Moved by Councillor Lajeunesse, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Discussion from anyone? Okay, seeing none, all in favor then? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Sorry for the lag there. I'm assuming you're all in favor? Yep. Okay. So turning back into our agenda here, we have that was our correspondence. Council verbal reports is up next. So I'll look to members of council for any verbal updates. Councillor Bateman, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's been a month since our last meeting, and yeah, it was a great holiday. I realized how tired I was, and how my half-full glass was a bit empty, but it feels refreshed. I've just been fielding a fair few emails and questions from Whiff and Spit neighbors about the sewer expansion, and pointing them to the key documents, which are the Liquid Waste Management Plan, the CRD's Water Monitoring Report, and the December 13th staff report. And I reminded all of them to get their feedback in by today's deadline, and I hope there's been a good turnout of responses. And beyond that, yeah, that's it. There's a few things happening. The Sioux Homelessness Coalition meets tomorrow for the first time, and a couple of AGMs upcoming with Viral and the Victoria Family Court. And Viral, of course, has announced that there will be a soft opening of the library, likely in March, to be followed by a formal opening several weeks after. But of course, everything is COVID dependent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, just want to wish everyone a happy new year, if that's still a thing. And yeah, I look forward to getting through the Omicron pandemic so we can hopefully get back to normal.
Fair enough. Other comments from members of council? Councillor St. Pierre?
I'm just going to pitch in that I did note this Christmas, because we did stay home due to the Omicron and the likelihood of a spike. It does make you appreciate family all the more. And I do believe that we're going to really appreciate the chance to get together in the future more easily, and I'm sure it's coming soon.
Any comments from anyone online? Thank you, everyone online. Okay. I'll just share that the Capital Regional District is moving to sort of a hybrid participation as well. So any of you that are on CRD committees will likely have received that. They're looking for just the chair and or vice chair to be present in the room with everyone else on WebEx. So that'll be starting with the board meeting tomorrow. And then also, I was with Councillor Beddoes earlier. Was it last week, actually? It was our first meeting of the year at Sea Park. The vaccine clinic is mobilizing to open up over back in the multipurpose room at Sea Park. So the commission had worked out an agreement with Island Health to have that over there. So as more young people are getting, or younger kids, I should say, are getting registered, or booster shots are starting to come in, at least it provides a good location locally for our families to access. It's easier to access that than the Evergreen Mall where the current location is. And then otherwise, just looking to get on with the year. I find people were saying, oh, put your resolutions off until I'm a procrastinator. That's not good advice for someone. You just need to do things rather than put it off till COVID ends or put it off like that. Procrastinators love to hear that. It's not a good habit to start, so it's just better to just get in there and to go with it. I'd just like to thank our community stakeholders for just finding ways to carry on and to keep spirits bright. Whether that was the wonderful Christmas lights and all the seasonal decorations that went out, that was lovely to see, or community groups just trying to find ways to host events and to plan things, and of course, members of staff and council are always looking for unique and different ways to engage and to meet with community members on items of concern. So we're all doing the best we can in this interesting time, and I'll leave it at that because I want to keep my language relatively appropriate for chambers as we describe what COVID-19 is doing to all of us. I guess they should call it COVID-22 or something. I don't know. But anyway, I look forward to a time where we can actually all share a meal together, and hopefully, maybe it may not be the same meal, but certainly enjoy a meal in each other's company at some time to come into the future. And for all members of the public that are with us tonight or joining in this meeting, thank you for all that you're doing as well. I know it's a grind out there, and of course to our staff. So that concludes this meeting. The other piece I'll share is that the mayors of most of the 13 municipalities have also built a good rapport and relationship with one another. We meet every month over Teams. We've decided to continue with that and also to plan for in-person events when it's safe to do so, just so we can also share a meal together and network together. But we found that it's a good way to talk about what's happening in one another's community and what's going on in theirs. And we find today, we said we're all kind of in the same soup together, is how we described it. With what we're all experiencing. So when we have residents from one community saying, oh, over in Oak Bay or Saanich or Esquimalt, they're doing this. When I talk to the mayors, they're hearing at their end, well, it's over in Souk and other places, they're doing this, and why aren't you doing it? So it's the same thing that goes on back and forth, but it just helps to lift and inspire when we're with our peers sharing these sorts of dialogue with one another. We do hope that AVICC and LGLA will be in-person events. As you know, LGLA has moved from February into April. So, of course, the organizers will keep in touch on that, as well as the membership as to what that's going to look like. The FCM board will decide in February whether FCM this year will be virtual or in person. They haven't made that decision yet. And UBCM is ramping up for in-person in Whistler, but again, it just depends on what's going on. But hopefully we'll be a bit further along in this, as well as in the vaccine, where we can have safe events together, and it'll be a nice way to end off this term in office together. So hang in there, everyone. We're all doing the best we can. So on that note, I'll call for a motion to adjourn, please, at 8:15. Moved by Councillor Lajeunesse and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Let's see how many 8:15s we get. It's not even 9 yet. All right. Okay, everyone, be well. All those in favor of adjournment? That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, staff, for hanging in there with us, and take care, everyone. Good night.